There's no denying the amount of boring red tape which needs to be navigated in order for video game characters to make appearances in other franchises, no matter how simple things might seem on the surface. And so it never ceases to surprise when an iconic protagonist makes the leap to another beloved franchise almost entirely different from their own. Due to the complicated nature of IP rights, it's most common for characters to make cameo appearances in other series owned by the same publisher, but every so often fans will get to behold an entirely left-field crossover between franchises with no prior association. Whatever the means, these 10 video game characters all made shock appearances in franchises both ridiculous and unexpected, in each case making fans wonder exactly how the deal came together in the first place. In some instances it was a genuinely inspired and fitting crossover, while in others it was a mere cutesy tip of the hat, and every so often it was nothing more than aggressively distractingly bizarre. But all 10 appearances have one thing in common: nobody saw them coming, and you probably still don't even know about them. I am Kirsten from WhatCulture Gaming, and these are 10 video game characters that you didn't know appeared in other franchises.
But before we begin, my friends, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to today's list sponsor, Destroy All Humans. Now, I've been playing an advanced copy for review recently, and in short, it is brilliant fun. It's a remake of the original PS2 smash hit, which not only lets you, as the name suggests, destroy all humans in a ridiculous number of cathartic and chaotic ways, but it's added in tons of new content, including ideas and areas that didn't make it into the original. I have genuinely not been able to put it down. I mean, how could I say no to blowing up the White House and pretty much everything else that wasn't nailed down? The sheer carnage. It's delightful. And the best part about all of this is that the game is out now for PC, Xbox One and PS4, as is my review that's been put on WhatCulture.com, which you can go and read. And trust me, it is a game that has stolen my heart as much as I've been stealing brains and Furon DNA in the title itself. And that is a lot.
Number 10, Solid Snake in Ape Escape. Though it's not much of a great secret that Metal Gear Solid Snake has sporadically appeared in the Super Smash Bros. Series, did you know that he also made a cameo in the cult classic PlayStation platformer franchise Ape Escape? The original 2005 release of Ape Escape 3 featured a minigame called Metal Gear Solid, in which player monkey character Peepo Snake teams up with Solid Snake, who oddly is decked out in Big Boss's attire, to stop a group of rogue apes who have hijacked the new Metal Gear robot. Even though Snake voice actor David Hayter sadly wasn't available to voice Snake, resulting in a decent-ish sound-alike, it's still totally brilliantly jarring to see Snake show up in what's effectively a cutesy, kid-friendly parody of his own franchise. Given that there's a Metal Gear-style Ape Escape minigame in Metal Gear Solid 3 itself, which was released the year prior, we can safely assume this was some sort of quid pro quo cross-promotion between Sony and Konami. Number 9, Doom Guy in Duke Nukem. Duke Nukem 3D and Duke Nukem 64 both feature cameo appearances from Doom's legendary protagonist, Doom Guy, if you're willing to count a brutalized corpse as a cameo anyway. In Duke 3D, Doom Guy's mutilated body can be discovered in one of the church's secret compartments, prompting Duke to quip, that's one Doom Space Marine. Meanwhile, in Duke Nukem 64, his remains can be found in the LA Rumble level's grimy torture chamber. While technically a cheeky Easter egg above all else, it's still amusing to consider Duke succeeding where his genre rival apparently failed. Though given that the Doom series is in ship shape these days while Duke Nukem appears to be indefinitely mothballed, perhaps the joke hasn't aged all too well. Number 8, Master Chief in Forza Horizon. Though the brilliant Forza Horizon franchise first allowed players the joy of riding Halo's Warthog vehicle in the third entry into the series, it wasn't until Forza Horizon 4 that this extended to an actual appearance from Master Chief himself. The game includes a showcase event in which you play as Master Chief as he steps into the Warthog to race against a Pelican, with Cortana providing vocal backup no less, on a map heavily inspired by Halo's own iconic level, the Silent Cartographer. And honestly, it's a much snugger collision of two-hit IPs than you might reasonably expect, though that's likely in part due to both being published by Microsoft Studios. For fans anxiously anticipating the upcoming Halo Infinite, it makes the wait that little bit less agonising. Number 7, Isaac Clarke in Skate. Skate 3 is one of the greatest skating video games of all time for many reasons. Not least its hilarious physics and diverse soundtrack, but also the fact that you can play as Dead Space protagonist Isaac Clarke. Beyond both series being published by EA, it's an incredibly bizarre team-up and seemingly intentionally so. By entering the code Dead Space 2 in Skate 3's cheat section, you'll unlock ISSAC as a playable character in free play mode, which is at least as hilarious as it sounds. ISSAC is also kitted out with his own bespoke sci-fi themed skateboard, and despite how clunky and unwieldy his attire looks, he's actually able to skate around with a surprising litheness. Better still, if you really want to evoke a more convincing Dead Space vibe, input the codes McFly and Zombie in order to activate hoverboard mode and turn all pedestrians into zombies. Number 6. Raiden in Unreal. Though you might be aware that Mortal Kombat's legendary Raiden has appeared in Injustice 2 as a DLC character, you've probably never seen the Thunder God's appearance in the Unreal franchise. To be fair, Raiden didn't show up in a mainline Unreal tournament game or anything, as awesome as that would have been, but the Xbox exclusive spin-off Unreal Championship 2, the Liandry conflict. With at the time Mortal Kombat publisher Midway Games also publishing the Liandry conflict, they were able to include Raiden in the game as a playable character. Though it was certainly a tad jarring to have Raiden firing guns in a game which also allows players to alternate between first-person and third-person perspectives, it was still pretty neat once you got used to it. Plus, the game further allowed players to switch out the default Unreal announcer voice for the booming vocal tenor of Mortal Kombat's own Shao Kahn. Number 5. Pyramid Head in Track and Field. There's perhaps no more blatant example of a company making a crossover out of whatever IP were available to them at the time than Konami's 2008's Nintendo DS game New International Track and Field. Though at its core is a pretty typical sporting game, it was distinguished by some of its more peculiar roster members from other Konami titles, such as Frogger, Metal Gear Solid Snake, Castlevania's Simon Belmont, and most peculiar of all, Silent Hill's Pyramid Head. Quite understandably, the image of Silent Hill's top-heavy antagonist running the 100-meter sprint, doing the long jump and shooting clay pigeons is as hilarious as it is intensely strange. Though Silent Hill fans are currently rejoicing that Pyramid Head was recently confirmed as a DLC character for multiplayer survival horror game Dead by Daylight, a genre he's clearly better suited for, the sheer absurdity of seeing Pyramid Head getting his cardio in makes it surely one of the most brilliantly weird crossovers ever. Number 4. NOCTIS LUCIS CAELUM in Tekken 7. If there's any video game genre which can be reliably counted on to deliver unexpected guest characters from other franchises, it's surely the beat-em-up. And because including the Walking Dead's Negan wasn't enough cognitive dissonance for Tekken 7, Bandai Namco also decided to include Final Fantasy XV's protagonist NOCTIS LUCIS CAELUM as a guest fighter. Though Noctis' aesthetic suits the world of Tekken fine enough, his combat style clashes awkwardly with the more fisticuff-centric nature of the game's other fighters, even if he's still relatively fun to play as. Clearly, Bandai Namco was throwing everything they could at the wall here and seeing what would stick, and if nothing else, it certainly got more eyes on the game. Number 3. The Minecraft Creeper in Borderlands. The deeply irreverent tone of the Borderlands franchise makes it extremely ripe for cameos from other series, but rather than feature a character from a similar IP, Borderlands 2 decided to include an enemy from Minecraft of all things. Hidden within the caustic caverns, players can find Minecraft's signature foes, the Creepers, large, hideously blocky green monsters which explode when they get within reach of the player. For added measure, any encounter with a creeper ends with a badass creeper being spawned, effectively a far bigger and more dangerous iteration of the original enemy. And as ultimate proof that Borderlands is free to cross-pollinate its lore with that of any other franchise, you're even able to loot a skin from the creeper's corpse, which will turn your character's own head into a Blockstein Minecraft noggin. Number 2. KRATOS in Everybody's Golf. Putting an action-adventure icon in a fighting game is one thing, but transplanting him into one of the calmest and most passive sports there is? That's surely madness. Regardless, Everybody's Golf 5 added God of War's Kratos as a playable character a few months after release, and no matter how often you play the game, it never quite becomes normal that the murderous Spartan warrior has taken time out of slaughtering goons to play 9 relaxing holes. It gets even weirder if you pit him against Little Big Planet's Sackboy, no doubt. It's all good fun though, as Kratos isn't merely a regular golfer with a AAA skin, his golf club is also a chain with a club on the end, and after nailing a shot, he'll strut, quip, and pose with all the aggressive enthusiasm of a WWE superstar. Number 1. Turok in Acclaim's WWF games. Though the very best wrestling games tend to not take themselves too seriously, there is perhaps a point where things get a little too ridiculous for their own good, and that's perhaps why this character was technically removed from Acclaim's 1998 wrestling game WWF Warzone. Shortly after Warzone's release, it emerged that those who owned GameShark cheat cartridges could enter a code and unlock a fully formed version of Turok, the protagonist of the Acclaim-published N64 game Turok Dinosaur Hunter, released the year prior. It seems fair to assume that the character was only hidden within the game as an Easter egg in-joke for enterprising fans to find, especially considering that his moveset is a carbon copy of The Rock's. As a testament of the game's comprehensive creation suite though, it was nevertheless impressive for the time. And there we go, 10 video game characters that you didn't know appeared in other franchises. Let us know if you spotted any of these at the time and what you thought of it in the comments down below. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, click that subscribe button, and don't forget to also hit that bell icon as well to be notified of any new videos that come your way. I have been Kirsten Rea from WhatCulture, and I will see you in the next video.